wonderful panel ahead of us, a powerful panel. They are very ready for us, and we cannot wait to hear from them. And before I introduce the moderator, let me acknowledge the International Leadership University, who is our host here today. An apology from Professor Macau for not being present to welcome us, but hopefully towards the end, he may be able to come. If he's not able to come, we appreciate that they've given us the space. We have an MOU with the International Leadership University to continuously hold the LIFT episode right here with them because they want to support any leadership conversation in the country. So without much further ado, allow me to invite our moderator, our wonderful architect, Irene Agutu, to come and take it over. Thank you.
Nick, is the link up now? Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The supreme quality for leadership is unquestionable integrity. Without it, the Kenya National Examinations Council. He is a columnist and also does special writing with the Standard newspapers. A weekly commentator on KTN News. A skilled and experienced writer and editor. He has a career spanning over 3 decades and has hundreds of publications under his belt. Well, you can look at the map after this. Now, in his experience, he has worked with broadcasting houses in Kenya, all of them being KBC, Nation Media, Standard, KTN, Royal Media. Outside of our borders, there's the British Broadcasting Corporation, Zambia Broadcasting Corporation, South Africa Broadcasting Corporation, Radio Japan, Radio Deutsche Welle, Radio France Internationale, Voice of America. Politically, he has been a communications consultant to various presidential candidates in Kenya. So he's very much at home with issues of leadership. I welcome Dr. Barack Muluka. All of us here, our education level combined might not reach where his is. So gentlemen, asanteni sana, karibuni sana for making time to be with us this evening. Jeff, I will start with you. Our episode tonight is based on your article. Could you just give us a brief, because these are your musings, this is actually your thoughts, your reflections. Could you briefly give us what was going on in your mind when you wrote this article?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I'm pleased to be sitting with the gentlemen of such high qualifications. It's good that you have given us this opportunity to speak about this sensitive topic. How this article came to be in your possession is a bit of a sensitive story, because I was having a chat with a friend of mine with whom you and I and her do some community service. And in passing, I mentioned to her that I do some writing. And she asked to see it. And I believe she was impressed by it. And so I'm here. The article is called Lost Foundations. And it was just my musings, my rantings based on my own personal experiences, my life's journey. One important thing is you never cease to learn, and I was inspired by an uncle of mine who passed away very recently called Dr. Henry Chakava, who was a renowned publisher, and Bwana Muluka worked with him. Bwana Kisia is also known to him quite well. So he looked at my writings, because I do small short stories on my Facebook profile every now and again, and he said to me, Jeff, why don't you consider writing? So I said, but hey uncle, I've never thought about writing before. I mean, what would I write about? He said, it will come to you. Just when something provokes you, it will come to you. So
what provoked you with this particular
my experiences in life is what provoked this article. I have been in positions of leadership, whether in family enterprise, whether in community leadership, and now in community service. So I decided to pen down what I thought were the weaknesses. I could see the genesis of those weaknesses in leadership, the sectors which contribute to those weaknesses in leadership, and I contextualized them in a document which I'm pleased to see is here, and I hope to see more of it being shared and published, because according to Bwana Kisia and Bwana Muluka, they believe that it's well written, that it covers very critical points about leadership. So yeah, basically that's how it came to be.
Well, yes, but what is then your point of departure? What is the most profound prick point for you, in just a sentence or so, for purposes of those that haven't read it?
Basically, for me, I picked the concept of leadership being a service to community, to a people, to inform what I wrote. Because our society has convoluted what leadership should be. Our leaders, political leaders, have become demigods. They have become like lords. They're sweet to us when they campaign, but when they get into office, they sit on us, they mistreat us, they abuse us. So I was ranting about what my frustrations were, because in the positions I've been in leadership, one thing I've always tried to do is to serve the community and to hold the staff, because the staff are actually your team. Yes. They are the ones who deliver whatever it is you're working on.
So the people that you lead. The
people that you lead. You have to serve them. You have to inspire them. You have to empower them. So that was really the basis on which I felt that the way our society has become today is warped with what it should be, because we pay taxes which pay these people salaries, but look at the way they treat us. So it's a long shot. It's a prayer that, you know, we will have leaders who serve us, because for them it's undermining for them to be considered servants. Yeah.
Very good. Philip, what is your interpretation of who a leader should be?
Thank you, Irene. Madam President, I recognize you. My senior Barak, my brother here, Luceno, and all architects. You know, you are the people who are in the build up space. Now, I was actually persuaded to come for this talk on a Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? On a Wednesday, when I'm supposed to be enjoying a good glass of wine with my brother Barak. After reading this very well-written article by my brother Luceno, because I come from the school of thought that doesn't look at any human being as a leader, the so-called leader. Remember, said once somebody has crossed the line and he or she is on the other side, they start mistreating you, correct? So I don't believe there's anything like a leader, but there is something called leadership. Now, Professor Marty Linsky of Harvard persuaded me that if a society or community wants to progress, you should stop looking, don't look for that leader, because that leader doesn't exist, okay? In fact, he defines that as the big L syndrome, what he was talking about, Bwana Mkubwa or Bibi Mkubwa. So you have a big L at your forehead, and therefore you forget that you are in that position to provide servant leadership, and you're only there for a period of time. So let me give this analogy for those of you who have a family. You wake up in the morning, early morning, and your little daughter or little son offers to go and make breakfast. Then the other one, if you are lucky to have more than one, arranges the table. And then another one moves the breakfast from the kitchen to the dining room. And then the mother offers to pray. And then the father clears the utensils and cutlery and cookery from the dining room. In that span of about an hour or 90 minutes, we have had so many people exercising leadership. So we believe that at any given point, any human being has the capability of exercising leadership. Okay? So I'm hoping that by the time we end today, I'll also have persuaded you to stop looking for that leader, because we all are human beings with capacity to provide leadership at a certain point in time. And therefore, leadership, as I understand, is the ability to move people in an agreed direction. Yeah? Not in your direction, but in an agreed direction. We've agreed we're going to this direction, so we are all moving towards that direction willingly, all of us, and the person at that time providing leadership is competent, and the people who are being led are enthusiastic about what is happening. Okay? So those are the three elements of leadership. Yeah? That the direction must be agreed, that the person who at that time is providing leadership must be competent, that the people being led must be enthusiastic about it. Okay? And there's willingness. So that is, in my understanding, what I would look at leadership. So don't look for that person just because you've given that person the responsibility of providing leadership at a given point in time, and look for solutions from that person. That person does not have all the solutions, if you make reference to the analogy I've given you, that we are all have ability, all of us have ability to provide leadership at a certain point in time. So basically, that is my understanding of what leadership is all about.
Thank you very much, Philip. That was very well articulated. Now, with that in mind, and with the leadership that we have today. Barack, where do you think our failures are as a people, collectively? Because at the end of the day, for us to be able to forge forward, we have to take collective responsibility. Where leadership is concerned, where do you think our failures have been and continue to be?
Thank you very much, Irene, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. My humble privilege and pleasure to be a member of this panel this evening. And I'd like to look at this within the context of what we have been given as lost foundations. And I'm happy that the vanguard of the audience, I believe here and elsewhere, is hugely constituted of architects. And architecture, in my layman's perception and understanding, deals, among other things, with foundations. It deals with, among other things, with designs. Yes. It deals with the visionary agendas. It deals with missionary agendas. And therefore, I want to begin by not agreeing with my brother Philip Kisia here that we do not need leaders. We need leaders all the time. When I look at my country today, I see an entity that looks like a homestead in which all the elders have died, and they are irresponsible and inexperienced juveniles who are experimenting around, and at the center of it all is the lead juvenile whom everybody else is scared of. And this lead juvenile is not necessarily the best. If we were to look at the kind of leadership that we have in the country today, looking at models of leadership, I would classify it, as I did a few weeks ago, as a kakistocracy. And kakistocracies are leaderships that are constituted by individuals who are the least qualified and least competent to provide leadership. So we must have leaders who must be vision bearers, who must be mission bearers, who must believe in certain values, in certain principles, to which we are all collectively beholden, and we believe that there is a course, as in some kind of destination which we are moving towards, but that destination, being visionary, keeps receding on the horizon and keeps incrementally improving as we go along. And the journey going along is a course. So I've spoken of a course, C-A-U-S-E, and a course, which is the path that we are using and following towards that destination. And being bearers of a vision, we also know that the vision is like the baton in a relay race, which we shall pass on to the next generation of vision bearers, and they will keep on, we will keep on moving towards that desired destination. And so within that framework of context, and talking about lost foundations, I'm not very familiar with the paper. I think it was trying to reach me, but it fell through the cracks. So I'll take a shot.
There was no leadership in that process.
I think there was, but the road, maybe since there are floods and so on, something might have happened along the way. The foundation is a visionary.
You can take this.
We are talking about a people who are joined at the hip in a visionary dream that believes, among other things, that there is divinity, and that out of this divinity all nations have been created, that out of this divinity blessedness can be found, and that believing in that divinity and in that blessedness, our land and nation can be built, and that it can be built around foundations of justice, and that justice can be our shield and defender, and that within that polity we can be productive, and plenty can be found within us and among us, and that our glory can be a glory that sprouts out of the dignity of our labor, and not out of stealing or thieving or lying or dictatorship, and that we can stand out to defend that polity. And so that requires some leadership, forums, systems, instruments, peoples, philosophies, and values. And I think we dropped the ball. I have lived in this country long enough. I was telling some people recently that I have been privileged to live across 8 decades, and they challenged me to prove, and I proved to them that although I'm not 80 years old, I have lived across 8 decades, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and now 2020s. So those are 8 decades. And within that period, I have seen this country being run down by people who are older than I am, and now I'm seeing it being run down by people who are younger than I am. And the common factor among these people, the least common factor, is unbridled greed and self-service, instead of self-leadership and leading the country and the nation towards the foundations that the architects of our nation put together. Thank you.
Barack, as you all noticed, that the man has got all the words of our national anthem right at his fingertips. I don't think many of us can do that after living through 8 decades. Jeff, when leaders compromise on integrity, it not only undermines their credibility, but also erodes trust and respect from the populace. Not my words, your words. It's in your article. Tell us more about that, because Barack started that conversation, but he very cleverly weaved away from the word integrity. Step on its neck.
One of the biggest problems we have in our leadership, which is rather glaring because we all know about it, and generally we've come to learn in Kenya, where there is smoke, there is fire. We are witnessing a total decay of the moral fabric of our society. Integrity, which should be the pillar of any leader that we choose, integrity is a lost cause with many of the leaders we have today.
And why do you think so? Why do you think that happens?
Integrity touches on many things, including aspects of social values, social standards, giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and letting Caesar utilize it for the community. But unfortunately, this has all gone belly up, because our leaders today, if I refer to what Barack said, they are about self-gratitude, self-enrichment. So there is a total decay in moral standards, moral fabrics of our society, corruption.
But what are these moral standards? I'm curious to know. What do we have? A set book? Do we have a standardometer? do we have something to measure these moral standards that we speak of?
Social values are known to all of us because they are taught
Now,
to
that
us.
is an assumption.
Well, they are taught to us when we grow up, and that's part of my article, because one of the issues I speak about is dysfunctional families. And where this goes wrong starts at that point. If you come from a dysfunctional family, then your moral values will be warped. But ideally, a leader should serve the community, and his bearing, his commitment should be for his people. But that is not what we witness today, because today it is more about me, myself, and I with our leaders.
So is it an issue of parenting?
Well, there is a multitude of issues, but that could be one of them. In a lot of our leaders we see today, it could be attributed to their upbringing. Maybe the value chain was not up to par. So yes.
Okay. But I will come back to you on that one. I really need to know what this social integration is all about. When leaders fail to foster a sense of unity, Philip, a sense of unity, collaboration, and support, it can lead to divisions, rivalries, lack of collective progress, and eventual disintegration of social networks. Do you agree with this position?
Now, Irene, I don't know that I agree or disagree, but before probably I dive into your question, because we are here not to earn a certificate, if you, because you all have. You know, he talked about integrity, yeah, which is basically, you know, whether we are honest, our moral values, and so on and so forth. So when he was talking about integrity, and he only focused on the people Barack thinks are leaders, oh no, a leader. I hope, you know, we may not have time to dig into that one today, but
are you going after Barack?
But that is what my brother Luceno was alluding to. That there are some people who are called leaders who are, you know, who are lacking in integrity. But I said some of them are just here. Here because, you know, we need to be a bit real, eh? And permit me, I'm not saying I'm as clean as a peeled potato. But what I'm saying is that when you talk about integrity or lack of integrity, we must first start looking at ourselves, correct? Architects, very important people in the build environment, okay?
Thank you for recognizing that.
Very important. And I recognized you when I was in charge of the city, okay? But when you sign off a plan that has been copy-pasted from somewhere, you sign it off and you're paid a few shillings. You know, let us not talk about integrity as something that is foreign. It is right here. When you have a surveyor that is given a job and he marks the beacons up to the wet areas, extends, you know, those people who live next to rivers, he gives you 1 meter into the river. These are people who are in your space. So let us not talk about integrity as if it is something that is foreign. Now, I think back to your question. Your question was, what challenges would the community face
when leaders
fail to foster unity? I mean, and again, as my brother said, because I had the privilege of reading this document, let us start from family level. Let us not imagine that those people we're referring to as leaders are somewhere. They are right in the house. Now, in the house, there are several people who exercise leadership, but there's one who stands out, who is recognized as the key player. Now, when that person fails to provide leadership, you can actually see the foundation that is laid in the children. They will, in most cases, be an example of that person you are referring to as a leader. So what they will be projecting is exactly what that person is. If their moral values are poor, don't look far. Make reference to that person who is providing leadership in that particular family or community or society. Even before we get, because now we're looking at the internal operating environment where you have control, because you have control over how your family is raised, areas that you can invest in, how you acquire wealth. Yeah, because if you, for example, acquire wealth corruptly, and your children can see, because they're not stupid. I have a situation where my own little son, who now is 14, has asked me very hard questions, like, Dad, how did you acquire this house that we live in? How did you acquire? And I had to explain to him that many years ago, I used to live in Eastlands. Yeah? And I lived there for some time, and I did that, and I did this, and I sold this, and I sold that. And eventually we are here, but even this one is still on loan.
I would be curious.
So,
I would be curious.
Yeah.
Was he asking this because he wanted to know what path to follow, or because he looked at you and doubted?
No,
This guy.
maybe he doubted. Maybe he doubted, and if he doubted, I think I'm happy if he doubted, because it means that I brought him up well, that he can stand up to the father and ask him hard questions. So if he was doubting me, I'm happy he was. At least he gave me an opportunity to explain myself. Okay? So but I think he asked the question, and I'll not name names, because he gave me the name. He said, Daddy, but so and so has been a governor for only 9 months, and he has bought a house for 600 million.
Tutajijazia.
Okay? And I asked him, how did you know? How did you find out? And he told me, Dad, but internet. And he mentioned the name, and he said, and he gave me so much detail until I got very scared. So when leadership fails, even at an environment that you're in full control of, the internal operating environment, that again has an effect on the external operating environment. Now, the external operating environment, unfortunately, then we have no control of that environment. But then you can see that we produce, because we're here talking to architects and people in that space, then we can see that now when those little children of viewers and ours grow up and they become who they are, they will start designing buildings that end up collapsing. They will supervise buildings and give them a right to occupation when they are not fit for occupation. They will take shortcuts, which now, when you do that, you people in the build up in the environment, the consequences are there. Okay? Buildings collapse, and I can say very proudly that during my time, you can count the buildings that collapsed, and those ones were approved before I came in. So, yeah, history is there, you can check. So it is imperative that those of us and everybody who has been given an opportunity to breathe by the Almighty God, that you always do the right thing and keep on doing the right thing from your professional level. And I'll keep on making reference, not because I have a problem with architects, but we are here addressing architects. So a building collapses, somebody has taken loan on it, we lose life. Can you quantify life? No. That building that comes down, it's an investment in terms of money, maybe borrowed, and maybe if you've not borrowed, you've stolen that money, public funds, you've stolen and put up a building. So bad leadership has very, very severe consequences on society. Yeah.
Thank you, Philip. Barak, there is a phrase here that tells me that true leadership relies on inspiration. You're a man of words and a man of the books. Please interpret that for us and tell us whether you believe it's true or whether we are off the mark in that belief.
Thank you. I am more mesmerized by the notions rather than by the words. Inspiration could be inspiration towards many different directions and from different sources. So it depends on who you are leading and who you are inspired by and the direction to which you are inspired. Not all inspiration is necessarily good. Some inspiration is bad. That's why I talked earlier on about value. And I know that some accusatory assertions have been uttered from your end towards me that I cleverly skirted around the word integrity. I did not. When you talk about values, you are talking about integrity. And integrity is not necessarily found in things like unity. Unity can be good or bad. It depends on what we are united for. Who is united around what? If we are united about looting the city county of Nairobi, that unity is conspiracy. And it's conspiracy against the people of Nairobi or against the people of Kenya. So the foundation, going back to the theme, the central theme of that paper, is about values. The values that we all embrace and the values that we seek to be the pillars that are going to take this nation where we see it as going, so that we can hand a good, strong, stable, and respectable nation to future generations. In my childhood years, I read a writer whom later on I was privileged to publish, called Barbara Kimenyi. And one of the books she wrote was titled David and the Gangsters. And I remember one of the gangsters was called Kalikaka, the gangster. And Kalikaka was the chief gangster. And these gangsters are united, they have their own bonds, they have their own meetings, they have got their own visions, they have got their own inspiration. So it is possible that they are inspired, but inspired towards a wrong cause. And therefore, this brings us to the question of, so what should we do and who should do something about it? And that is where eternal vigilance comes into the equation. And eternal vigilance is something that my brother Philip has talked about here, that when we have got professional bodies and forums, they ought to be able to ostracize and to outlaw certain individuals, certain professionals who have fallen foul of the standards that we have put in place, of the values that guide us, that when a building comes down, the first thing you need to do is to be caused to step aside, if you cannot cause yourself to step aside, until such a time as you are freed of any blemishes and you are able to come back. But here we are in a nation, we are a nation that tends to celebrate felony, that tends to celebrate criminals, that the criminal will sell to us fake fertilizers, and because he comes with a lot of money in a very big car, and it's not just one, it is a whole chain of them, we go out to celebrate and to clap. And this is a very shocking country, that a thief who is rather well known will come before a crowd, a gathering, including in church on a Sunday morning, with the holy men of God seated in the dais, and he will stand up and pontificate and ventilate and expectorate, and the people in the church will clap. Then the pastors will greet that person with a supported hand. Then they will be given the wherewithal. And then they will say, all leadership comes from God. As a people, as a society, we must be willing and ready to stand aloof. When you were reading my curriculum vitae there, you said that I have been an advisor in government, which is true. I have been, and it is this current government that is there. And when I got to realize that attempting to advise this government was like playing a guitar to my goats in Emmanuel, I vacated that space so that I can stand outside and ventilate as freely as possible.
I will ask you a question that is really burning me on that issue, Barak. You know, you've spoken about, when we talk about unity and gangsterism, you have, in your own confession, told us that you've lived through 8 decades. And in my conversations with you, in your admission, when growing up in Eastlands, you had gangs. But interestingly enough, these gangs have brought up very prolific, very important members of society. So is there some good to the bad that there was? And why is it that it has not been possible to translate the same? Because I do know that part of the reason that the gangs you've spoken to me about produced very, very, successful members of society. You stood together. You may have been doing wrong at the time, but you stood together and pushed each other up. Why is it that that cannot be translated in today's society? Where are we losing that fabric?
Now, first, I will see you behind the tent after the meeting, because you have brought our secrets to the forum.
There was no non-disclosure clause.
So I will see you behind the tent. Secondly, you have uttered certain inexactitudes. Like when you say that I have confessed, the notion and the commitment of sin is assumed. I have nothing to confess, nothing to admit as well. But it is true that in Eastlands, where Philip Kisi and I grew up, that gentleman grew up in Babylon. he does not understand these things.
I grew up with him.
Yeah, you are Babylonians. But in Harlem, where we grew up, it was necessary to have certain vigilante groups. And those vigilante groups were not gangs. They were groups that came together for good intentions of protecting and defending ourselves against adversaries. It's just the same as we have an army or we have defense forces, and we have seen that over the weekend we were interring General Ogola.
Yes.
The team he was leading was not a gang. It's not a gang. It is a
It was an army.
noble team. We came together, we read together, we went swimming together. When you people were swimming in swimming pools, in the ornate environments where you grew up,
No, we swam in three pipes,
we were swimming.
which is a sewer.
We were swimming in quarries in Eastlands because they were building Buruburu and Uhuru Estate and Outer Ring and all that, and the quarries would be there. And when there were floods like these ones, there would be water, and we would go out there and swim. I don't know whether Philip has since graduated to a proper swimming pool or whether he still swims in those places. But something good coming out of that, the values of resilience, the values of fellow feeling in a more noble environment, the values of thinking about others. You see, some years back, we had President Moi in this country, and I know that today we have a whole adult generation that has no memory of the Moi presidency. People,
Or no knowledge of it at all.
they would have some hint that there was President Moi, but Moi left the scene 22 years ago. So if you are 25, 26, 27, you probably don't remember anything about President Moi. Those of us who are there can tell you that in spite of all the sins of commission and omission that we hear about President Moi, there are also flashes of goodness. In fact, I could even say that the first 4 years of the Moi presidency were sterling. That was when he actually attempted to live the Nyayo philosophy that he talked about, of love, peace, and unity, that he would not end anyone's speech without saying, be mindful of other people's welfare. And all that is lost. I don't know, before we even point fingers at these fellows who live in Ikulu here and the others who are recording clips of themselves in drunken stupors in Dubai and circulating them around here, we can also ask ourselves some very basic questions. Luceno is talking about values, family values, about humanness. Every day in this city of Nairobi, if you are a motorist, for example, you have seen the hyenaism on the roads, that you are in your lane trying to follow the traffic regulations. This one is pushing you from this side, that one is pushing you from the other side. The motorbike is also coming from this side, and there's another one cutting across on that side, and there are no values, and the police are watching. They are busy talking to the matatu man there to give them their dues for that day. So it is a society which is sunken in hyenaism, and the kinds of unions that we have had in the past become useful if they become pressure groups
Yes.
that could push for a better Nairobi. Before I finish, the Eastlands where I grew up, when you guys were going to Aga Khan Hospital to the Nairobi Hospital and to Mpisha and to those other places, we had functional dispensaries. We had functional dispensaries in Jericho, in Makadara, in Jerusalem, in Bahati, and you could go there at any time of the day or night. We had a clean environment that was nurtured, and Philip can attest to that, both as a resident of those places and as our town clerk in subsequent years, that the environment in Eastlands was clean, that we had lawns that were mowed by the City Council of Nairobi every day, that we had those barbed wired fences grown with bougainvillea, and we had paths that were tarmacked up to the house, to the doorstep, and that we had clean water that was treated, and we could drink that water straight from the tap. That if you felt sick at night in Jericho, you would walk to Lumumba in the night, anytime. It was open 24/7. And you would get treated and you would walk back home without anybody attacking you.
Was there flooding?
Was there what?
Was there flooding at the time?
There were no floods.
Actually, interesting.
That there was,
even now,
there was drainage.
there's not much flooding in
There
Eastlands.
was proper drainage. The waters flowed. You know where flooding came from? Flooding came from you architects. Yeah? And these things that you are designing and building all over the place in a haphazard manner, that when you are driving on the road, you find the road has gone, it's been taken, and an architect has gone there to visit the site and drawn the plan and not advise these people about how the water is supposed to flow. So when the water is coming, it is finding that it has reached a dead end. It has got to discover alternative paths and avenues. When it gets down there, it discovers that again it's another dead end, and there's more water coming from upstream, and the people of Kenya start lamenting that it is raining, and the rains are supposed to be blessings, that we are supposed to have built reservoirs that are supposed to be trapping that water so that we can use it when the rain season comes. But we are wondering when the rains will end, and as soon as the rains end and the dry season comes, we are lamenting about the drought and saying that the price of vegetables has become very expensive and our cows and goats are dying. What kind of nation are we?
Very good question.
Irene, maybe permit me just to make a very quick addition to what my senior brother said. And because again we are talking to people in that space, okay, it's important that we keep on making reference to you. The topic that our brother came up with is so relevant to what we're discussing, because he has not spoken about a lost foundation, but he is talking about lost foundations. And there are many. So the lost foundation here, I will just zero it in on you. Because we had a sabotage. Okay. So, was there a foundation in terms of planning? And Barak has taken you through the history of this town, and you know it better than we do. You know, we had a plan that was formulated by the white settler, which segregated the population in two. the whites, the bourgeois live in this side, and Barak and
Plebeians.
myself found ourselves on the other side, because we were the ones who were providing labor to you people who are living this side. Okay? But the point is, I can tell you life this side was beautiful.
Yes.
In terms of security, in terms of beauty, Bougainville is talking about, I can confirm. We were not allowed,
In terms of community.
we were,
even.
there's a community, we were not even allowed to rear chicken. You remember? Chicken had to come from the village dead. Okay, dead. Now, you people who are this side, many years after, are keeping chicken, goats, and everything else. Okay? Yeah, I mean, this side was for only dogs and, you know, puppies and those things. But now, these things should be happening this side, but they're happening this side. So my concern here is, where did we lose that foundation? Because the foundation was laid very, very strongly, although it was discriminatory by the whites. Yeah? But there was a beautiful foundation. We were happy living this side. Not that we are not happy having graduated, but we are happy. In fact, if life was the way it was that time, we don't mind going back.
Yes.
We don't mind, actually, we don't mind. Because we were a neat community. My question to you, because when I came here, I didn't want to talk to you. I wanted us to engage. Now, I think between 2000 and I can't remember up to which year, there was a time this city was was growing without a plan. Am I right?
Yes.
Did we have people called planners, architects, quantity surveyors, I don't know what, engineers? Did we have them?
Yes.
What interventions did they make? You know, when you're talking about failed leadership, you must start with yourselves. Because you people who are responsible for that space, you allowed the city to grow without a plan. Until the Son of Grace, one Philip Kisia, came and said, I may not be a planner, but surely if we continue growing at this rate, we'll have no city by now. I said it. Okay? So this thing that you hear called New Plan, the master plan for Nairobi, that's supposed to guide the development of Nairobi up to 2040? 2040?
2030.
20? No.
2014 to
2014 to 2050 or 2040, I can't remember. That was as a result of somebody's not a planner. And of course, I had a good team. One, Tom Odongo, who I promoted to become a director of planning, and Rose Mwema. So I surrounded myself by good people. I keep on asking myself, where were you people? Because from what I can see, Barak says he has seen eight decades. Most of you have seen at least 5. I can confirm, based on his argument, I've seen 7. Okay? So where were you people when this city was growing without plan? Because you can't now point a finger to other people saying that, you know, we have these challenges that we are facing. Other than your failure to make any interventions, serious interventions, in the 36 months that we ran this city, there are certain things that we did on your behalf. That when we left office, because they were not engraved in any act of parliament, they were policy, regulations, and what have you. And the new people come and change. Okay, I set up a secretariat for the people in the build space. If those of you, most of you should be able to remember. And I said, City Hall should only facilitate, because the government, you guys run this show. And when things were professionalized, and that's why during that time we never had buildings collapsing, we went further and even automated building plan approvals. Immediately I left, somebody was reminded that that guy who left was stupid, because this is where people make money. Because for plans to be approved, they must see the boss. They must come and see the boss. So just make sure that this thing, the internet, is not paid, and it will collapse. And you people were there, all of you were there. When we also decided that we can be better than the whites who were there before us, and we introduced the physical address system in this town. That is your responsibility. But I'm the one who said, no, you can't make reference by saying, when you come to town, there's a tall building which is black. There must be a better way of finding it. So we introduced a physical address system. Tell me, what have you done from the time we left? We left having done CBD, Upper Hill, Westlands, and industrial area. Nothing else has been done, and you are there, and you're pointing a finger. We left you people with the green policy that we did with the University of Nairobi and Habitat, that informed how we manage our green spaces. Okay? Roundabouts. You can't just give a guy a roundabout and say, pay me 100,000 and do what you want. How do you want the roundabouts to look at? How do you want our play fields to look at? How do we want our empty spaces to look like? We have it. What have you done about it? I didn't come here to attack you, but finally on that one, because Barak, you know, Barak reminded me about Eastlands, and I can tell you life was beautiful there. We left this city. The new plan that you're referring to was as a result of my administration, funded by JICA. Funded by JICA. You know, I mean, you can't take it away. That master plan, and you know better than we do, should have given rise to spatial plans. I left office 12 years, 13 years ago. There is no single spatial plan for the city. Leave alone the master plan not being implemented. It is somewhere gathering dust. So when you say there are floods, when you say the drainage system is not working, and those things should have been corrected in the master plan, point at yourselves.
Thank you, Philip. I think the architects needed to hear that. Thank you very much. Radical surgery. Jeff, we need to change things. We cannot continue like this. Just today, you and I belong to a forum where we are mourning somebody who has died in the floods. We need to change things. What would your radical approach be in changing the leadership that we have now?
I can't say it because I might be arrested. But to come to the rescue, first of all, of the architects, because hawa wazee wamewalima sana. We cannot keep focusing on the past. TAA is here. They have a new vision, a new mission, and who was it who turned into salt, or was it a stone?
Lot's wife.
Lot's wife. They are not like Lot's wife. We are looking ahead. Mistakes were made. So we can't keep dwelling on the past. However, that said, what is radical? I think the public must take back control. We are the ones who put these clowns in office. We are the ones who have allowed ourselves to become subservient. We are the ones who have lost our voices. Fortunately, there is an entity called Metro Alliance that has been created in the last year and a half by my chairman, Sabdan Tirango Maina, and we married TAA. The matrimony was held at...
we are the submissive wives.
The matrimony was held at Muthaiga, so we are gisty. We are not like the guys from the east. So what we are trying to do is to take the power back and voice that we are the ones who should determine. We are the ones who are in charge. We need to go out there and enlighten our people about the quality of the leaders we want. I saw that somebody today, somehow, I believe it is out of pressure, and I would like to take us to take the credit for that pressure, has suspended any new developments and has also suspended ongoing developments.
Ongoing excavations.
Yes.
But do you think that is actual, or is it lip service?
I think it is, you see, unfortunately, for the way we operate in Kenya, we operate on the scandal of the day. So this might be the news of the day today, but they could create another one tomorrow and this gets forgotten. So the onus is on us to stay focused on our objective. And our objective is to make them answerable. Unfortunately, we are the ones who voted this fellow in. So we have to take responsibility for his blunders. These blunders are costing us. Where they vote with inducements for their stomachs. Because as you can see today, there is a loss of life, and all these lives being lost are because of poor planning. We have what we brag about as our gem. We say the expressway is a gem. The other day the expressway was a swimming pool. What a shame. We were told that we were being created a beautiful new park in Nairobi. Now we are being told we have to pay 300 to go into that park. And not only that, they are creating a disco there. So where is the social amenities for the public? Because there are people who enjoy those amenities, not like you who goes to Carnival.
Carnival is dead.
So we must take charge as society. We must realize the power is with us. We have to stop being subservient to these leaders, and we have to, as a social society, community service. These are all elements which are within our hands, within our control. We are the ones to determine our future and our fate.
Thank you very much. I think we all needed to hear that. Philip, your radical surgery. What's your radical surgery?
Radical surgery? Again, I wouldn't say it here because they are always looking for me. At least Barack has just left them the other day. They can spare him.
No, you're covered. He's got an army.
Yeah. So I think the surgery is with you and me. There is need to call for action. Yeah? We need to completely overhaul the leadership and leadership styles that we are currently facing. And to do that, we need to be very, very intentional about it. Let our mouths speak, but as we speak, it must be followed with some action. You know, Kenya is not short of good people that can manage and run this country. That one I can tell you for free. But politics in this country is so dirty because the people who make decisions are very few. And I'll give you a very short story. I think Barack tried to run for political office with all the credentials he has. The people didn't see him. They couldn't look at him.
But that's because he was speaking in English.
No, wait a minute. I'm coming to that. He can speak very fluent Kiluya, by the way. He's a man who can speak about 4 or 5 languages fluently. Our brother PLO attempted to run in 2007. A fine gentleman, a man who you cannot corrupt. Did the people look at him? Did they? No. The son of grace, one Philip Kisa, attempted to run in 2013 for the gubernatorial office And I said, with small little resources, this is what I've done. Now people talk about master plan, they talk about physical, they talk about what we did. They talk about solid waste, something we did, they should have implemented. They are talking about automation of the city, something we did. We're the ones who did automation. We started with parking. And it ended where we started. So when my brother is calling us out for action, and Irene's talk about surgery, radical surgery, we need to be a bit more serious with it. Because you know why? The players will ignore you as professionals. You know why? You know why you're ignored? Can I tell you why you're ignored?
Yes, tell us.
Number one, you know, when you talk about running a campaign, you need resources, eh? But most of the times, you only, or we focus on one resource, something called money. But to run an effective campaign, someone like Obama, he was not a billionaire, but he ran a very effective campaign. He had manpower that people volunteered to work for him for free. Those people gave minutes, they gave their time. Other people gave machinery, you know, maybe computers, motor vehicles, and what have you, that assisted in the campaign. Others did marketing, because they are, you know, so there are many resources that, of course, money is important, but when you are able to get these other resources contributed on gratis, you reduce the load to the person who is seeking to occupy that office to come and serve you. All right? So now we are talking about this radical change that we are waiting for 2027. And Barack told you, the cartoons you have now, we are going to have worse cartoons. We are going to have worse. Because Kenyans don't seem to learn. Kenyans have a very short memory. It will get to 2027. It is not about your ideas, but how much money you can leave. How much money can you give to the voters? So where do you people come in? Do what I have said. Contribute. In fact, even you volunteer. Even to be an MCA. Who told you that you'll stop practicing as an architect if you're an MCA? By the way, do you know MCAs earn about, I don't know how many professionals earn 300,000 bob, particularly for the they earn 300K. You can see that the government struggling to pay interns 200,000 shillings. Yeah, that is where we are. So we can no longer leave those offices for these cartoons. People who have questionable academic credentials, people who have no integrity, people who have stolen public funds, and they come back and share with the same voters, and the voters vote for them. Now, you, like it is done in developed economies, Europe and America, you must take charge of political parties. You must take charge. You cannot live, I can tell you my own experience. In 2013, we sat down with the old man, Baba, and at Serena. And, you know, the polls had indicated that I was doing fairly well. The only thing I didn't have was money to run, you know, that type of campaign. And Baba told me, you know, napatia hii Wanjiro. So I asked Baba, how? This is a serious. The CEO said, you know, hii kura yote ya Nairobi ni yangu. Hakuna kura. These are my votes. Lakini Wanjiro atakuja na kama 10,000. Hii ya kanisa atakuja nayo. Kwanza hii Kidero hapana kura. Kura ni. So Kidero and myself were knocked out at Serena. And the preferred candidate was Margaret Wanjiro. And I'm mentioning names because that is the truth. And when I finally penned down my memoir, I'll have a chapter on that incident at Serena. Then in 2016, again, the current president called me and he said, you know, we looked for you in 2013. We wanted you to join our team. Lakini ukapoteza rada. So this time, work with me. But you are coming in as a deputy. So I said, but who's going to be the governor? Don't worry. Wacha hii watu watulete governor. So you see, we now need to stop looking at some of those offices as offices that are meant for people who have nothing to do. Those are serious offices that need to be occupied by serious Kenyans like you and me. So if you want that radical change, the radical change cannot come from those people you allow to ascend to office. They are there not because they want to serve, they are there because they want to enrich themselves. And that will not change come 2027 unless you and me change.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Philip. Barack, your final word. Na usitutukane watu wa hii side.
Hapana, nyinyi brothers wangu, kwa hivyo sitawatusi, sitawatengua.
Utatutengua. Sawa basi.
Thank you very much. The first thing is that we must, and I think I'm just capping up what has been said already by those before me in a different way. We must refrain from being afraid. That is number one. That there's no comfort in that space that you consider to be comfortable. Because we sometimes behave as if you could live in a palace in the middle of a sewage, you would be quite happy to live in that palace. If you could fashion a path through the sewage to your residence, to your children's school, to hospital, and to the supermarket where you buy, you could ignore the rest of the world. We have got to make that major paradigm shift and to know that I cannot be what I want to be before others can also be what they want to be. And it may require a bit of courage, perhaps even a lot of courage, and be not afraid. I like the thought that Jeff Luceno brought up and Philip amplified, that they are coming for me. Let them come for you. If they don't come for you, the country will never move. And when they come for you, they make you stronger. They make the mission stronger. They make the cause stronger. And you occupy a position of leadership. And positions of leadership are like the military. And you have heard that in the military there's never a vacuum. So when you come for me, Philip immediately steps in my shoes. And when they come for him, Jeff steps in his shoes, and the mission continues. It's like in the village we say that you can never cut off the tail of a lizard. It grows another one instantly. I think that is number one. Number two, to digress a bit from my brother Jeff, history is important. It's important because it teaches us the mistakes that we have made and what to avoid. It teaches us the lessons of what others have done and the successes they have made, and strengthens us in the belief that we can also make it. In fact, our own history is useful in the sense that it shows that it worked before. And therefore, this is not some moonshine dream. It can happen again. The third and last one, and which is just to amplify what Philip Kisia has said here. You know, we do things in silos and think in silos. Like now in this country, there's been a doctor's strike for more than 40 days. We tax-paying professionals of this country are just aloof. We are looking at the doctors. I'm not a doctor, so that does not concern me. How are these doctors behaving? Where is it going to end? The only professionals who have attempted as a collectivity to say anything about that are the lawyers. Nobody else. Where are the architects? Or you think that is politics, that is political space, we don't want to go there. Then when yours comes up, the doctors will be with their stethoscopes in their hospitals and clinics. It's not about them. When it affects the engineers, and I think you architects are also engineers, then the rest of the people stand aloof. So apart from the lawyers who follow us, we journalists, because we are to the forefront, yeah, in all these things. You guys are in trouble, we come out for you. The church is in trouble, we come out for it. We are in trouble, nobody comes out for us. And saying that these journalists wamechapwa leo of the taxes. In the next few days, we are going to have CSS appointed. They're going to be paid a lot of money. Okay, it's fine, you can take your children to Nairobi Hospital, to Aga Khan and wherever, and you have medical cover. But you have your relatives out there who cannot afford these things. Do they count? Professionals getting together, being forceful, seeking for accountability. You don't have necessarily to run for office, but if you could run, so much the better.
Integrity, yeah? But for me, I think integrity is a symptom of something. Lack of integrity, as we have been talking about. We, as a country, don't seem to have a common idea, don't seem to have a common agenda. I think Dr. Muluka was talking about a philosophy. We don't have a philosophy. We were hunters, gatherers, who were lumped up together to become a country. And we struggle with that. We are just called a country, Kenya. When you go to the East and the former Soviet countries, they seem to have a strong philosophy with its own issues, but they know where they're going. At least they know this is where we are going as a society, these are our values, because values are like, guardrails. They help you to go somewhere. Your goal cannot be a value. The integrity, honesty cannot be something has to control me. If I want to get the jobs in town, something, it's survival for the fittest. But what controls me? And the last weekend we were talking about General Ogola and his life. Everybody could attest to the values that he lived by. So what values are we living by? And what are we trying to achieve as a nation? You guys seem to have more gray than me, more papers. Maybe you can shed light on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, we were hunter-gatherers. We still are hunter-gatherers. In fact, all human beings remain hunter-gatherers. It's just the forest that changes from time to time and the guise of the hunting and gathering. For example, we now have Chinese hunter-gatherers all over the place, and you can see how they are overrunning these spaces where we are, and all these tall buildings that are coming up, part of that process of hunting and gathering. And we are hunter-gatherers who have not protected our part of the forest. We need to be standing up and speaking out on these things. This thing of Bwana Sakaja saying that he's going to now do 25-75, and I think it's because they are involved, they have vested interests, there are all these plots that are nyakuad, they're the ones who are hunting and gathering, and the philosophy is there. The philosophy is there, Mr. Mutiso, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chair and fellow panelists. What messes us up are two things. The first one, I'm not involved. I have my house in Runda, it's okay. Wacha wafanye tu hiyo, I'm not involved. That's the first one. The second one is some kind of ethical relativism, where it is a bad thing, but it is bad only when it's done by somebody who is not from my tribe. This is our thief. Yeah? Huyo mwizi wa pande ile ingine tumwangalie. We have even seen this thing about university degrees and certificates. And one of the spaces where there are very many of those fake papers is within your profession. People calling themselves engineers, architects, they are going to the county governments, they are the ones who are taking all the tenders, they are the ones who are doing all the designs and all the valuation, they are the ones who are building the roads. Can we protect our profession from intrusion by charlatans, quacks, and dilettantes, and lock them out of that space, regardless that this thief is my brother? I should sit him down and tell him, brother, hii umefanya, lakini tunaenda kwa meeting huko, na tafadhali elewa kwamba nitachukua msimamo ambao ni professional. Asante.
Thank you very much. Philip will add something.
Okay, I just very quickly say two things. One, that we require interventions at two levels. Because he talked about things that touch on ethics. Okay? From where I'm sitting, I think we have tried to institutionalize the institution that has been given mandate to make sure that this country is ethical in whatever it does. Yeah? But unfortunately, that institution, EACC, has put so much energy on fighting corruption. I think it is time that you and us as professionals, as Kenyans, we insist on having some changes within how EACC operates. There's need to have emphasis on ethics, you know, and less on corruption. Because if we deal with issues that are ethical, for example, Barack was talking about you're driving, the light comes on red. If you are ethical, you should stop. Don't say there are no motor vehicles. Stop. And I've been stopped by my children. They say, Dad, no, you can't drive through. It is red. Why are you driving through? It doesn't matter who you are, Daddy. Stop. Daddy, you cannot be on phone when you're driving. Keep away your phone. So we need to, I think, lay more emphasis on putting a stronger foundation on building ethics. Ethics, ethics, ethics. If you can spend 70% of our resources on ethics, then we'll have less corruption. Then that 30%, we can deal with it ruthlessly. But when you have so many cases of corruption, then we spread ourselves so thin, then even the war against corruption is lost. The second intervention is what my brother has spoken about. And if you've not read his paper, please do. Family unit. Extremely important. We ignore, particularly men. Once you've done the job that you do in a few minutes, and you produce these people, beautiful people, you leave them. You act as if you have no responsibility. You have a responsibility to ensure that that person grows up to become somebody that everybody can be proud of, that can live in a community and make things work. So families, we ignore them. We don't give our children time. When kids are questioning us, asking us hard questions, why is this family affording a holiday in Dubai for 2 weeks, and Dad, you are doing the same job you can't afford? Why? You must be able to explain to them that if I were to do what they're doing, these are the consequences. And we don't think this is right. But if you get under pressure, and because Irene took a holiday to Seychelles, and you want to do the same, but you don't know how. I'm not saying Irene, but I'm just using her as an example. Let us focus on the family unit. So if we start building families that, like in China, I think parents, although they work very hard, and company, and in places like Singapore and Malaysia, which we keep on referring to, they have a lot of emphasis on the growing children. And that's why when they grow up, they're able to fit in a community and society. But here we leave our children loose. No morals, nothing. Then we expect them to change. Like a mugumo tree that is 100 years old, it cannot change, it cannot bend. I do know that. So I think, and then finally, leadership. We need leadership that is honest. Okay? We have seen a lot of these people just talking. They talk, they say, we're fighting corruption, even these fake certificates, and they are the ones who facilitated those in office to acquire fake certificates. Are they being real? They talk about fighting corruption, and the people surrounding them have so much wealth. You don't know how they acquire the wealth. And I have said many times that if indeed these fellows are so clever than us and than you, they are so clever, they know how to make money, billions of shillings. They just make billions of shillings. Can they even leave those offices and start schools of management or business schools and teach people how to make money? They'll be more useful than. So I think the point is that they are not businessmen. These are just thieves. They are thieves stealing public resources. They are not business people. That's why when you hear people talk about extension of a term limit, it's nothing but just stealing, thieving. They're thieves. Don't allow that to happen.
If I may have the final word, in response to you, my brother, I will quote Julius Malema. Malema said that we never had these borders, which we all know. We never had these borders. Yes, we may have been hunter-gatherers, but these boundaries were brought to us. They were imposed to us. One of the points I have in my article touches on social norms, cultural norms and practices, and how that undermines leadership. Disregard for cultural norms and values. If you look back into our history, leaders were chosen in a specific way, and there was an order, and that order worked, and every village had a head who was chosen, respected, and had high values. We need to revisit our old cultural values, look within ourselves, not as educated by the white man, but who we are and how we chose our leaders, what values we looked for in our leaders. Secondly, I would like to enlighten my fellow citizens on one issue, which is the biggest con all of us who are employed or own properties suffer every day, and we don't do anything about it. We pay our rates. Ask yourself why you pay those rates. What are they for? What is it meant? It's contractual. You pay your rates so that the county repairs your roads, fixes your street lights, repairs your storm drains, provides you with good public schools, gives you security. What do you get out of that? I try to ask my community where I live that, listen guys, it's critical that we come together. Let us hold this money and demand accountability, and demand that we be shown why our roads have never been fixed in 40 years. Can we be told where our money goes? They inboxed me a lot of messages. My wife thought I had a secret lover because the messages were coming and people were telling me, hey Jeff, shush bwana, wewe unaongea namna gani, watatukatia maji. Now surely folks, how long are we going to live in fear? It is your money. You would rather batter a makanga for not giving you your 5 bob change, but you give the county 30,000 land rates and shut your eyes and walk away. You walk out of the gate, you trip and fall and lose teeth, and it's because you pay for services that you don't receive. So citizens, please let us wake up, take power, take charge. This is our country. We need to realize that the power is with us. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Jeff, for that submission. You, I think, took, the essence of the discussion home. In the interest of time, I think we will wind up now. I must give thanks to my panelists, Dr. Barack Maluka, who wants to see me behind the tent. There was no non-disclosure clause in that discussion. Philip Kisia, for educating us on our own shortcomings. And of course, my good friend Jeff, we call him Luce, for firing, exactly, standing up for us, because utashikwa. With that, thank you very much, gentlemen. And I will now ask you to deplane and hand it back to our MC.
And a big thanks and a round of applause to Irene. Asanteni sana. Please just, panelists, we want to take a picture. We could take a picture of you while you stand there, please. Irene, stand in the middle so that you can balance out the picture. Yes. Thank you so much. And as they take that picture, let me say thank you once more. Thank you once more to everyone who's managed to come in today. I know it's difficult to drive around in traffic and in a lot of rain, but you've braved and been here, so thank you so much. To our online viewers, please, we'll get the clips. We'll continue sharing the videos as we go. There's a lot to take home from this panelist. Thank you so much for those powerful points you've given us. The biggest challenge, of course, going to the professionals. Actually, I was going to ask a question about how can, professionals now rise up into leadership. But I think rightfully put by yourselves, we have to look inwardly first. Our ethics, what has happened to our profession? Are we going to let our architecture just fizzle away? Why are we not able to come back together, uphold our ethics as architects the way we were taught? We must begin to stand and, stand together. I'm so proud of what the doctors have done. Tough as it is for the community and for the nation, they're fighting for what is due to them. It's shocking that they have to fight. Actually, that is the part that surprises me, that doctors have to fight, for something as basic as what their pay should be. As architects are sitting here, there are some architects who've gone and negotiated a consolidated fee of 2.5% for all consultants for affordable housing projects. 2.5% to pay the entire consortium. And we are sitting here thinking it's not going to affect you. These are the things we need to talk about. We've been challenged today. Why will you take drawings for approval when clearly you've overbuilt, you're in the riparian? Why? Yet the power is with us as architects. The challenge has come back home. Thank you so much, panelists. We really appreciate you and your time. There's a cup of tea, so don't rush. There's a little cup of tea outside there. I'll encourage everyone to get some warmth. And architects here who are here, I can see Architect Kahare, Architect Emmanuel is here. And the others I had mentioned you. We have Lenny at the back. Lenny is our social media guru. Thank you very much, Lenny. You've been doing a good job. And of course to our media team led by Nikoti. Asanteni sana Nikoti for being faithful. And everyone else, thank you so very much. Luceno, your paper, I've circulated it everywhere. So now we are looking forward to the next paper. Yeah, so don't take too long. And with that said, please rise up. Let's pray. I'll repeat the prayer that I just did, and you can join me. O God of all creation, bless this, our land and nation. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. Thank you very much. And just one last thing I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Because we have to look inwardly in the profession, the Architects Alliance is launching a series of webinars for capacity building of architects. I think it is time we look into where are the areas of our weaknesses and where we need to strengthen ourselves. There will be CPD points awarded because we have now partnered with Borax. So kindly please, our online viewers, watch out for webinars that are important for our own profession. So thank you very much, everyone.